I am a traitor. A heavy name, a burden that cannot be lifted. I have destroyed my sister's world, turned it into a nightmare with no way out. But am I really a demon? Or just a weak human caught in a spiral of bad choices? Is it possible to atone for this mistake, even a small part? Horrible, right? I know. No need for anyone to remind me of the obvious. I have heard all the curses, the countless vicious messages, the sarcastic comments, the disgusted looks whenever someone recognizes me on the street. Society wants me gone, to pay for what I did to Lily. But do they know? Do they know that every night I stage my own trial, acting as prosecutor, lawyer, and judge? Do they know that the sentence I have imposed on myself is more severe than any punishment from the outside world? Do they know that I have lost a part of my soul, a part that can never be recovered? I've grown accustomed to being despised. But has anyone paused to consider what drove me to this? I'm not seeking sympathy. I'm not looking for validation. I simply want to reveal the reality, whether you accept it or not. You see me as evil incarnate? A self-centered, avaricious individual who'd crush her own sibling for a life of luxury? A deceiver who exploited her innocent sister's faith just to claim what rightfully belonged to her? Perhaps that's what I am. But perhaps you're missing crucial pieces of this puzzle. Hear me out, just this one time. Because reality isn't as black and white as it appears. Lily is indeed a victim, that's undeniable. But what everyone overlooks is that I was once in her shoes, too. Our parents subjected me to their cruel experiment, thrust me into the merciless world they engineered, where survival belonged only to the toughest. Lily remains unaware. She still believes I was the favored one, the fortunate daughter who lived in luxury while she juggled multiple jobs to survive. She thinks I deliberately betrayed her trust. But truthfully, I was never given options. I still recall the moment I discovered our family's supposed poverty was a facade. At 17, I witnessed my mother exiting an exclusive jewelry boutique. She hastily concealed a luxury shopping bag in her car's trunk, nervously scanning the area for observers. When questioned, she merely smiled and said, "Don't overthink it, darling. Everyone needs their private matters." Private matters. Back then, I couldn't grasp the implications. Gradually, I understood that our entire family life was an orchestrated charade. Lily never understood why our parents allowed her such hardship, but I knew. Because I had endured identical treatment. I had merely passed their evaluation before her turn came. Upon reaching 21, my parents announced it was time for my next stage. They demanded proof of my survival instincts. They revoked everything, abandoned me with nothing but my capabilities, exactly as they would later do to Lily. But with one crucial distinction. They presented me with an ultimatum: either prove my resilience and rise above, or face complete erasure from the family lineage. Do you comprehend what that implies? It means failure would transform me into what Lily eventually became. Destitute. Isolated. Completely severed from the Bennett family's vast wealth. I chose survival. But survival demanded a metamorphosis. I had to shed my former identity, discard my core beliefs, and commit acts I never thought possible. Above all, I had to embrace a harsh reality. Survival meant securing my position, even if it meant turning against my sister. Does your hatred persist? Perfect. I'm not seeking absolution. I only ask that you listen. Because this tale has only begun. There's a crucial detail about me that few grasp. Villainy wasn't my birthright. I once mirrored Lily's innocence, trusting our parents implicitly, believing in life's inherent fairness, convinced that diligence would yield rewards. Then reality shattered those illusions. I discovered the falsity of such beliefs. Lily remains ignorant of certain truths that I've witnessed firsthand. We were raised believing in our impoverished status, a carefully crafted deception. Our childhood unfolded in a dreary Chicago suburb. Our home featured 2 claustrophobic bedrooms, a kitchen perpetually permeated with greasy aromas, and deteriorating furniture patched with tape. No extravagant trips, no refined dining experiences. Mom's constant refrain was, "Money's scarce. Learn to be frugal." Dad would dismiss my aspirations with contempt. "Life offers nothing freely, Alice. Either seize what you desire or face irrelevance. They conditioned us to embrace hardship, accept poverty as our destiny. I embraced their teachings. Until a revelation altered everything. The first crack in their facade appeared when I was 12, spotting Mother wearing an exquisite golden bracelet. The piece stood in stark contrast to her usual modest appearance, its craftsmanship and value unmistakable. Where did that come from? I inquired, mesmerized. She startled, concealing her wrist, before offering a casual laugh. Just a thrift store find. Don't dwell on it. I accepted her explanation. At that moment, I needed to believe. Yet weeks later, Gucci shoes materialized in her wardrobe. Then a Louis Vuitton handbag appeared. While exact prices eluded me, one fact was certain: such luxuries weren't accessible to the genuinely impoverished. By 15, I began unraveling my parents' web of secrets. One afternoon, I inadvertently caught fragments of my father's heated phone conversation from his study. Transfer everything to that account immediately. Stop being foolish. Do you want the IRS investigating our finances? Upon noticing my presence in the doorway, he abruptly terminated the call. His smile appeared, but it wasn't his usual warm expression. This one held an unsettling coldness. I hope you didn't catch any of that, Alice. I acknowledged with a nod, and buried the incident deep within. Gradually, the realization dawned that our parents' teachings were merely an elaborate charade. They weren't struggling financially. They didn't actually need to economize. They were manipulating us. When I attempted to broach the subject of finances, their responses remained predictably evasive. These matters are beyond your years. Adult concerns aren't for children. Concentrate on your education. Leave these worries aside. And Lily? She maintained unwavering faith in them. Her conviction in our parents' integrity never faltered. From her perspective, we were simply honest people navigating life's harsh realities. But I had glimpsed behind their masks. Want to know the moment I recognized my role as their pawn? It happened at 17. That particular day, arriving home unexpectedly early, I overheard my parents' kitchen conversation. An inexplicable unease prompted me to conceal myself behind the door. Alice is the perceptive one. She's growing increasingly skeptical. My father's words carried clearly. That's fine. Her early discovery doesn't matter. It's time she understands how things operate. My mother replied. What about Lily? My mother's exhale was audible. She remains too innocent. Let her preserve her illusions. Eventually, she'll learn, just as Alice has. Everything was orchestrated. They'd anticipated Lily's eventual awakening to reality, matching my own journey. They merely awaited the perfect moment. And I bore this knowledge before she did. There's your explanation for who I became. I wasn't inherently malicious. But circumstances forced premature maturity, forced confrontation with life's ruthlessness. Trust became synonymous with vulnerability. Initially, protecting Lily was my priority. Then reality struck. Survival in this game is solitary. You may condemn me. I accept that. But have you faced the impossible choice between self-preservation and inevitable destruction? I made my choice. I chose survival. I distinctly recall my parents' ultimate test. No formal ceremony marked the occasion, no dramatic pronouncements like Hollywood depicts. Nobody explicitly declared, "Now prove your worth." They simply stripped everything away. I had just celebrated my 21st birthday when my father entered the living room that winter evening, the faint amber light casting eerie shadows across his features. My mother sat in her usual spot in the armchair, perfectly poised, absorbed in her phone screen, the picture of composure. Alice, it's time you learned true independence. My brow furrowed. What exactly do you mean? From now on, you'll need to support yourself, he stated matter-of-factly. Starting tomorrow, our financial support ends completely. No more credit cards, no vehicle access, nothing at all. I glanced toward my mother, seeking any reaction, but she remained detached, never once looking up from her screen. This is our family's way, my father elaborated. To truly belong in the system, you must demonstrate your ability to thrive without our support. I swallowed hard. And what happens if I don't succeed? My mother released a soft, knowing laugh. Then you'll join the outcasts, like all the others. The others. The words echoed in my mind. I knew precisely who they meant. Those relatives once embraced by the family but discarded for their perceived weakness. The ones my parents mentioned with contempt, those who failed to master the family's intricate game. Now, I faced the same pivotal moment. The reality felt surreal. I'd witnessed this happen before, but never imagined becoming the target myself. I had zero preparation, no emergency funds, and absolutely no alternatives. When I departed that house, I left behind the old version of myself. I found shelter in a dilapidated apartment on Chicago's periphery, where sirens wailed endlessly and stale tobacco smoke permeated everything. I secured employment at an aging Starbucks, where customers carelessly tossed their change without acknowledgement. For the first time, poverty became more than just a concept. I mastered survival on budget meals and bargain coffee, learned to maintain composure facing angry customers, became expert at counting pennies, wondering if they'd cover fuel costs. I despised every moment. But failure wasn't an option, because failing meant permanent exile. Those initial months were pure torment. Then adaptation kicked in. I maximized my earnings through strategic shift scheduling, manipulating break times for optimal pay. I added night shifts at a bar where strategic smiles translated to generous tips. I developed keen perception. I noticed the affluent patrons in designer suits, those with wealth but limited time to enjoy it. Their visits weren't just about drinks. They craved attention, validation, someone to reinforce their sense of importance. So I became their mirror. I didn't merely learn to endure. I mastered the art of influence. I discovered the nuances of conversation, the subtle ways to inflate their ego. I perfected the timing of my laughter, cultivated an air of fascination, and learned when to create just enough distance to keep them intrigued. I transformed into the perfect embodiment of my parents' expectations. Someone who could navigate the intricacies of power. Someone who recognized that weakness had no place in this world. 12 months after my exile, I made my first journey back to the place they had banished me from. My mother's eyes traced my appearance methodically. She didn't inquire about my well-being or state of mind. Her gaze fixated on my designer footwear, the premium leather purse I carried, the timepiece adorning my wrist, all acquired through my own calculated maneuvers. Her lips curved upward. "You've finally understood, haven't you?" I confirmed with a silent nod. "Excellent," my father declared, rising to pour himself some wine. "Now you're prepared." Prepared for what? I refrained from asking, because the answer was already clear to me. I had succeeded in their test, and the Alice of old had ceased to exist. I had always dismissed Lily as hopelessly idealistic. She held on to beliefs I'd long since discarded: justice, merit-based success, family as a sanctuary. She maintained that diligence and perseverance would eventually carve out a promising future. I assumed she'd remain forever blind to reality. But I misjudged her perceptiveness. The first crack in Lily's innocence appeared during a routine evening at Joe's Diner, the modest establishment where she worked nights to sustain herself. I entered, immaculately dressed as usual, my luxury watch catching the light. Taking a window seat, I immersed myself in my phone. Lily approached with her notepad, maintaining her professional waitress demeanor. I lifted my gaze, offering my practiced manipulative smile. "Hey, little sister." This time, however, my charm fell flat. Lily remained expressionless, her gaze unwavering. "Nice watch." The simplicity of her words belied their underlying meaning. I responded with a casual shrug, subtly displaying the timepiece. "Oh, just a small present." "A present? Who from?" I hesitated momentarily. This questioning was unprecedented for Lily. She'd never scrutinized my lifestyle before. "A friend," I replied dismissively, feigning indifference. But her steady gaze persisted. And in that moment, I realized. Suspicion had taken root. Lily wasn't lacking intelligence. She simply hadn't had cause for skepticism before. But now, the puzzle pieces were slowly aligning in her consciousness. The designer attire I flaunted. The extravagant vacations I casually referenced. The lavish dining experiences I made no effort to conceal. And then I committed a crucial error. Something slipped through my carefully constructed facade. I can't pinpoint the exact moment. Perhaps an unguarded comment about our family. Maybe a thoughtless remark about my occupation, one Lily had never heard me mention in all our conversations. But whatever triggered it, it was sufficient to spark an investigation I could no longer control. I remain uncertain of her methods. Perhaps she uncovered a financial statement. Maybe she caught fragments of a private conversation. Or perhaps the weight of her own struggles finally pushed her to uncover what lay beneath the surface. But somehow, Lily unraveled our family's carefully guarded secret. She meticulously examined records, scrutinized financial accounts, pored over property documentation. She followed the trail of evidence that my parents and I had arrogantly assumed she'd never notice. Then came her message. Come over. Immediately. The moment I stepped into her cramped apartment, I knew we'd reached a critical juncture. Spread across her coffee table lay an extensive collection of documents. Financial records. Corporate files. Property deeds. I stood motionless. Lily sat opposite, her fingers tightly interlocked, her eyes reflecting raw fury. Care to explain this? Her tone carried an iciness I'd never encountered before. With measured steps, I approached and lifted one document. It revealed my parents' names on a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio. My throat constricted. Lily, there's more to this than you realize. Her laughter echoed, hollow and wounded. More to it, she echoed. Tell me, Alice, what complexity exists in this situation? Our family concealed vast wealth while we lived in poverty. They watched me exhaust myself working while they enjoyed Maldivian getaways. I remained silent. Her words rang with undeniable truth. I longed to explain my powerlessness. I wanted her to comprehend that I'd once stood where she stood, that our parents had tested me, that I'd fought to survive within their twisted framework. But I knew she wouldn't accept my explanation. Not in this moment. In her perspective, I wasn't another victim. I was a willing participant. And truthfully, she wasn't mistaken. But Lily remained unaware of one crucial detail. The revelation of truth wasn't what frightened me. What terrified me was her potential next move. When Lily pulled up a chair and faced me with that glacial stare, I knew I'd lost all control. This wasn't the same sister I knew, the one who'd always been easily influenced, who believed in life's inherent fairness. The Lily before me had transformed entirely. More formidable, more threatening, and most devastating of all, she no longer trusted my words. I understand what you're experiencing. I began, striving to maintain composure in my voice. Lily released a brief, cutting laugh, sharp as a razor's edge through silence. You understand? She cocked her head, one eyebrow raised skeptically. Have you ever skipped meals just to keep the lights on, Alice? Have you ever spent sleepless nights wondering if you'd end up homeless? I tightened my fists but maintained my poise. This isn't what you think. I've walked your path before. Stop with the deception. Lily's fist crashed onto the table, sending documents flying everywhere. I remained unmoved, simply observing her. Beneath her rage lay something deeper, raw pain. That sensation was familiar. I'd experienced it myself years before. How could you do this to me? Lily's voice wavered, though she fought to maintain control. I reclined in my seat with a heavy exhale. Did you consider I might not have had options? Lily's eyes narrowed to slits. What exactly do you mean? My fingers drummed against the tabletop. Mom and Dad subjected me to this before they targeted you. Uncertainty flickered across Lily's features, but determination quickly replaced it. Then why keep me in the dark? Why watch me struggle while you lived in luxury? I met her gaze, a slight smile touching my mouth. Because I learned something crucial, Lily. If not you, they would have chosen me. Complete stillness. Lily remained speechless. She just gazed at me, eyes widening, as though I'd uttered something unthinkably cruel. Are you listening to yourself? She breathed. I shrugged dismissively. It's reality. Lily leaped from her chair, pushing it back violently against the floor. She began pacing frantically, fingers raking through her hair. You actually believe that, She whirled around, eyes glistening. You view this as some twisted survival game? Think our family operates like a competition where the weak perish? I offered no response, because this wasn't mere belief. It was certainty. I once idolized you, Alice. Lily's voice had softened, yet retained its intensity. I thought you were brilliant. I aspired to match your strength, your capability. Her words stabbed at my heart. But I couldn't let sentiment cloud my judgment. You're missing the bigger picture, Lily. I spoke deliberately carefully. Helping you would have cost me everything. So you chose to betray me? I didn't betray you, I countered. I chose survival. Lily stared at me like I was someone she'd never known. You destroyed my sister. Her voice cracked with emotion. The sister I cherished, the one I trusted. You sacrificed me to maintain your position. Words failed me. Deep down, I knew there was truth in her accusation. Yet another part of me screamed silently. I had no alternative. Lily inhaled deeply, as if reaching an important resolution. She knelt down, collecting the scattered papers. Methodically, piece by piece. I blinked in confusion. Lily, what are you doing? She avoided my gaze, stuffing the documents into her bag. I'm putting an end to this. I leaped from my chair. Lily, wait. She turned to face me, and for the first time since entering the room, her eyes held something beyond hurt, resolve. No, Alice. Her tone was glacial. You've had your opportunity. It's my moment now. Then she strode out. I remained motionless. Because for the first time ever, I couldn't predict what would follow. I'd thought I was ready for anything. I believed I could always manipulate events to my advantage, as I had countless times before. But this time was different. I never anticipated Lily possessing such strength. Within days of her departure from that apartment, everything started unraveling. The media erupted like wildfire. Bennett family faces investigation for financial misconduct. Bennett's covert investment network revealed in complex fraud scheme. National outrage, parents' betrayal of their own children. Our faces, mine, Lily's, our parents, appeared everywhere. Newspapers, television, social platforms. Posts garnered thousands of shares, millions of reactions, everyone asking the same question. How could parents inflict such cruelty on their children? Our parents were immediately called in. Assets frozen. Our family's wealth symbols, estates, boats, premium vehicles, all seized for examination. My calls went unanswered. No explanations offered. No guidance provided. No contingency plan. For the first time, I faced complete isolation. Then came the arrest warrants. The charges: trust fund manipulation, financial fraud, embezzlement of millions. The evidence was irrefutable. My mother's personal records. Financial documentation. Surveillance footage from Maria, our housekeeper. And crucially, Lily. She had collected everything. Every crucial detail, every damning piece of evidence. And she had wielded it all to demolish our parents' carefully constructed empire. She wasn't merely seeking truth, she demanded justice. And ultimately, she achieved both. The authorities summoned me for interrogation. Though I wasn't formally arrested, my name wasn't directly linked to the fraudulent activities. I was far from innocent. I had reaped the benefits of every deception. I had deliberately turned a blind eye. And through that willful ignorance, I had destroyed my own essence. I can still vividly recall my final encounter with Lily. The verdict had been delivered. Our parents were serving long prison sentences for illegal financial charges. The remnants of our family's immense wealth were placed in trust, with Lily designated as the sole beneficiary. As I exited the courthouse, I was momentarily disoriented by the relentless camera flashes from reporters. Lily stood just ahead of me. I managed a cynical smile. You've succeeded. When she met my gaze, I noticed something different. Her eyes held no animosity, only profound, silent sorrow. This was never about winning, Alice, she responded. You simply needed to choose right. But you failed. I remained silent, acknowledging the truth in her words. She departed, and I made no attempt to stop her. Because I had lost everything. Now, I harbor no expectations of forgiveness. I seek no sympathy. But this experience has taught me one crucial lesson. Unquestioning loyalty can be self-destructive. I once believed family superseded everything else. I thought following the established rules would ensure my safety, but I overlooked something vital. When survival demands self-betrayal, you've already ceased to truly live. Lily chose correctly. She embraced truth. I didn't. And now I face the consequences. What are your thoughts on this narrative? Have you experienced being controlled by someone you deeply trusted? Would you have acted differently in my situation? Share your perspective in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and share to extend the conversation. Remember to subscribe for more compelling stories, narratives that not only entertain but challenge your perspective of the world around you.